Nicole,
And
episode of Just Browsing is on.
we just discussed this. Hang on. Just give me a second. Is on intuition? What is intuition?
What is intuition is a very broad word with a zillion names depending on who you ask. So, yes, what is intuition and what is it to you?
Oh, gut instinct. When that feeling, that spidey sense that you get when you're walking around and you feel like, okay, something's not right. Get out of here right now. There's so much more to it. Like oh, maybe I shouldn't eat this, or hey, that person feels weird. Intuition. What would you define it as?
So first, I want to say the coverall statement that it's thrown around all of the time. I think
Yeah.
we're coming more and more into it as a society, as an entire population, but I think it's almost like a sixth sense of being able to feel or know, have a strong feeling or knowing about information that you otherwise wouldn't. It's not picked up in your other five senses. It's not something you read in a book. It's not something someone told you. It's like all of a sudden, oh my God, I have to slam on the brakes. There's a car in front of me. Somebody's looking at me. What is that feeling? This person feels, like you said, a little icky. Something feels, or total opposite. This person I'm really gravitating to, I need to talk to them. Hey, I need to turn my car this way. I need to pick up this phone, or I'm thinking of Holmes and there she's calling me. What is that?
I get
These
that
are
all the time.
all wonderful forms of intuition everybody experiences all day long. And the more you pay attention, a lot of times, the more it happens. And it's not just in your head. You're just kind of grooming's the wrong word. You're what's the what's the word for like making better?
Uh, Improving, evolving.
You're like evolving that skill. You're continually practicing with it. It's coming up more and more and more. The more you use your intuition, the stronger it gets.
Wow, that's really articulate. Thank you so much for that, Aaron. You should
Means
run for
like,
mayor. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. And I also, just from so much research and what I've dug up, is that you have extrasensory perceptions and you have a organ that is about 1 millimeter above your skin, above your epidermis. And that is where all your senses for your sensory, your intuitive sensory is. That's what you use. It's an organ that you use as an intuitive function. It's
the
very interesting.
caveat on that, we also do have electromagnetic fields around us that they've known for years already that we can measure in modern healthcare. So if you do
Yes.
EKGs, you do certain type of measurements with certain type of instruments, they're measuring different aspects of the electric magnetic field around the human body. So
Yes.
all of these things all intertwine. One day we'll be smart enough to go to school on the other side of the country for all this stuff. There's things like ions and Caltech and all these big facilities that do measure all of these things. It's fantastic. It's provable, but it's kind of like the little wheelhouse of intuition and kind of where it comes from a scientific basis.
So now you can also, to go further into that, just to get into the mechanisms of it, you have a pineal gland, which also acts as your antenna. And think of it as Wi-Fi. You're picking up information that's in the, what do you call that? Like an ether or something like that? You just, you pick up frequencies and vibrations and you're pulling in information. Not all that information is yours. And that might be when you're struck with an idea or somebody, you're like, oh, I haven't thought of this person in forever. Why did they just pop in? Right? They're thinking of you. And it's like that telepathic, intuitive connection.
I don't know if I would label that as like direct connection to the pineal gland because isn't that just the difference between like consciousness and unconsciousness and like thought and you tapping into that radio frequency?
Okay, well, let's dissect this. No, this is great. This is perfect fodder. I don't even need to cut this because this is a great conversation. So interesting you say that. Maybe it's just you picking up radio frequencies, like, not actual radio frequencies, but different levels of layers upon layers of electrons, protons, neutrons at different densities, different, vibrations. So it's, yeah, maybe that's not the intuitive part. I always liken them together, but
Yeah.
because
Do you
it's
think
like a broadcast, like you're a conductor, right? You're a
yeah,
conductor.
yeah. There's a bunch of different thoughts, whether it's specific to the pineal gland, just the greater consciousness. There's the argument we'll get into on another episode of like, what is the mind? Are you your mind? Are you not your mind? Are you consciousness? What is the difference
Right.
between this subconsciousness and consciousness? And how does that affect you as a human being, and how that all fits into place? And I think it's an intriguing conversation to see. And very important thing for our channel is it is perfectly fine for one person to believe in one thing and one person to believe in another. There's not real right or wrong. It's just, hey, this is a possibility. We're not really sure. Our heads can't wrap our way around this. It could be both. Could be one. Like everything's on the table here at all times.
So what I would like to hear from the viewers is has there been a time where you either did or did not follow your intuition and it was 100% spot on?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would
No.
love to hear your stories. I go through Reddit all the time, so I would love to hear those type of stories. Just like, hey, there's this one time that, this guy gave me the creeps and turns out I was right for no reason. It wasn't me being judgy. And that's the thing too. Actually, I have a question for you. Do you feel like you're just judging people when things pop in?
No, I think after practice you get used to, so there's a very common thought when you originally kind of get into this world of this battle between how do I know this is my thought versus how do I know this is intuition. And every teacher you ever talk to, every person that shares our belief systems, everybody has a different perspective, and a lot of times they're all right. It's what works for you. It's this learning this level of discernment of what's the difference between my mind, our logical mind, and our intuitive mind, and they do come from two completely different places. A lot of times your intuition doesn't have anxiety, doesn't have fear. It's normally like a direct push. I'd love to share too one of the ways that I was taught.
And it's
So
not negative.
it's never
It
negative.
doesn't ever put you down in any way, shape, or form.
There is no judgment to
Right.
intuition. It just is.
Is. Yeah.
There's a feeling of like definitively looking up before you hit the car in front of you, that you're like, oh my god, I had to hit the brake. There wasn't a question, there wasn't a thought, or just like, oh no, someone just felt this way. You didn't
Mm.
have a logical reason to go, oh well, he looked funny, or he felt like, no, why? It just is. And if I could share real quick, one of the ways that somebody taught me the level of discernment between your mind and intuition, one of the best ways that I was taught was to sit, relax, kind of take 3 deep breaths, and tell yourself a
Sorry, I'm gonna do this along with you.
okay, right. You tell yourself 3 truths. So, my name is Erin. My name is Erin. My name is Erin. You're going to feel what that feels like with your physical body. Sounds strange, but it will feel a certain way when you sit there and relax. My name is Erin. Keep repeating it. Keep repeating it. And then, as you relax and you sit with that feeling, tell yourself you're a monkey. And you tell me the gut feeling and how your energy changes, how it looks, how it feels. Everyone will be different, but you as a person will get a distinct difference when you're lying or something is inauthentic.
Got it.
And
Okay.
that is a brilliant way that I was taught to sit with thoughts that goes, okay, is this true? Is this me? Or is this inauthentic to me?
And then you just practice.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I had to uh guess and check. Validation. It usually comes when there's validation and
Yes.
something proves you right, but it might not be for days, weeks, months, years. It might not be for years. Like I'll get deja vu and I'm like, oh my gosh, but it was like years ago. And
I tell you from our experiences how many times we've done readings on each other, and I'm like, do you remember when you told me 2.5 years ago that this was going to happen then? And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, well, you knew, and it just was like when we cover channeling, when we cover readings and stuff like that, the information you get feels so different in that realm
yeah.
than regular normal human brain and thinking. It's
Yeah.
I don't
You don't have time to think. It's just
know.
automatic. Yeah. So you're not even having time to judge it, and that's the difference. Is that when you sit there and think about it, that's you.
Yes.
When it's automatically coming through you, you're like, I don't even have time to process this. That's not you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your intuition.
The coolest part, the more and more you play with it, the more and more you do it, the more and more you invite it in, the more and more it's there. And we'll
Yes.
what it is again in another episode of like, what does that mean? Well, what is it? Because I love the topic of conversation between consciousness and who we are. Are we our minds? Are we
Nobody
not?
else. Right. Is there somebody behind the curtain at a higher level that's just like speaking into a microphone or playing a VR and we are the VR? Existential crisis.
I think I like that.
Yeah.
How
Well,
much
well, is
control?
it you at
Hmm?
a higher level?
Yeah. How much control do we have? Do you think, as the audience here, do you think that things are fated? Do you think that we have control? Do you think that we don't have any control and we're just being controlled by a
See,
man behind a curtain?
that's and then that'll start a lot of fights. But I knew a guy who was super, super smart, and he had come to the conclusion through his own path that every single thing he thinks, says, does is already preordained, and that is it.
And how
And
did that bode for him in the long run?
I don't know. I haven't talked to him since.
Oh,
So I moved. But he seemed to it seemed to bother him a lot.
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
but for me, I think it's free will, not versus fate, but is plus fate. So you
Yes,
have pinpoints along the way, and then you can make the little moves in between.
yes,
Kind
that's
of
true.
like, you're playing Mario and you know how to get to the end. You just got all these extras in here if you want, or you could just run through whatever you want to do.
Like the boss levels. How many boss levels have you had so far in your life?
Unwillingly, a lot.
Too many to count, right? Too many to count. But
I
most
did
of us have.
not
And
sign
that's
up for that.
fun in it. Why are we here? What is the purpose?
To experience life.
There's so many episodes.
So I can go up to St. Peter and go, I lived, man.
Who's St. Peter?
Oh, you're not Roman Catholic. Okay, so I was raised Roman Catholic, and St. Peter is the one at the gates who lets you in or doesn't let you in
Ah,
of heaven.
so that is another topic we will cover as well. What are beliefs? And what do beliefs chain us to and or open us up to? How do beliefs affect every single waking second of our life? And I think one of the coolest things I ever heard or saw somewhere was like belief is the code, is the coding for our life. Our entire existence is
That's
based on
wonderful.
belief.
Yeah, because as soon as not even just an idea, but as soon as you have solidified a belief system, that is your new hardwire. Your
Correct.
computer.
And you can change it at any time.
Yeah, you delete.
So when people say, "Oh, I manifested, I changed my reality," no, they're not full of
You've got mail.
shit. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that either, but like you just
Language, darling.
change, you just change your perspective, your viewpoint, and your belief system, and you just keep. The more you learn to play with it and mallet. That's not word. Not a word. Manipulate in a
Malleable.
malleable. Yeah, but that's not a word either.
No, yeah. Well, it is a word, but it's not
Like
the right sentence.
the more you,
Manipulate. You're right.
yeah, but that sounds negative.
Not in the right context. I know what you're talking about. Keep
The
laying knowledge
more
on me.
you manipulate your belief systems into those that work for you as opposed to against you, the more you continue to open up
Yeah,
every aspect of your life.
yeah. And be flexible. Be like, what did Bruce Lee say? Be like water. Flow. You can be as strong as water and just as, take the hits, but keep going. Keep moving forward.
Relinquishing control is having the most control.
That's so hard though.
It is. It's
That
hard.
that that'll be a whole nother episode too. Relinquishing control. Control versus whatever happens, man.
Surrendering is a huge one for most people at some point in your life when you're just hitting a wall, hitting a wall, hitting a wall, hitting a wall. Why don't you just try and let the wall take you where it wants to go and then find out what happens from there?
I think it has to buy me dinner first. That's why.
I don't think you're wrong. But the more we open up our minds to the possibility of greater beliefs than our little narrow-minded human brains could think of, the more doors open simultaneously for what can happen.
I agree, but there are times where it just feels like you can't get out of your own way and you're
Oh,
just like constantly hitting, like you said, that wall and you don't know how to get out. And that's why we have friends and family and support systems. I mean, hopefully most people do. Not everybody does, but that's what therapy's for. And then you get that outside perspective that they might say something and it'll go, oh, light bulb.
yes. And I do want to add, even from my own personal experience, Therapy is a beautiful tool. I recommend it to everyone and anyone at some point in their lives or at most points in their lives just as a third party. But one thing that I've learned from my own personal experience is I got so heavy into this world that I'm like, oh God, I don't want to talk to a therapist that's going to read a DSM book or this textbook and tell me only these things. Like, one of the things you start to learn once you completely immerse yourself in this is that nothing really fits in a box, and anything in a box feels inauthentic. There are plenty of therapists out there that do play in both worlds, so don't feel like you can't be your authentic and true self with them as well.
And on that note, subscribe.